This could be the single greatest cordless tool invention in the last decade, and it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a pro, you're gonna want this because this just changed wood joinery forever. This is the Kreg Rebel, a brand new, never invented before now pocket hole machine that's cordless and does a fantastic job at pocket hole joinery. You're gonna have to see this thing to believe it. This thing is so packed with features. I think they thought of everything here when they reimagined what pocket hole joinery could be. And this is a dream come true for a lot of us. I'd like to thank Kreg for sending this over for me to check out. If you'd like to check it out for yourself, I'll link it in the description, the pinned comment, as well as that view products button if it's available here on YouTube, but you could also scan the QR code. Now, let's check this thing out. As I stated, Kreg has been known for pocket hole joinery for a very long time. They're one of the innovators of pocket hole joinery, in my opinion. They have come out with a lot of different jigs over the years. I still have my Kreg K5, I have the 720 Pro, and they also make the Kreg Foreman, which is a bigger stationary machine. This is a portable cordless pocket hole machine that packs in everything that these other jigs can do, even better in my opinion. Now this is running on the brand new Kreg Blue Ion battery platform. This is a brand new cordless tool line from Kreg. I featured all of the tools that are currently on this platform a few weeks back. If you'd like to check that video out, I'll link it in the description because there's some very, very cool tools in there, including a new track saw, jigsaws, routers, drills, all kinds of things you're going to want to check out after this video, of course. But this new Kreg Rebel, I think, is the star of the show because it is something that has never been invented before. Now let's check out all the features, we'll put it through the test, and we'll see if it's right for you and your shop. Let's go. Now, at launch, as of October 1st, 2025, this should be available for purchase if it's not sold out. I do think this will sell out very quick on the initial run. Just a hunch. But you'll be able to get a 2 amp and or a 4 amp hour battery to run this machine on, as well as chargers, both fast chargers and regular chargers. There's a lot to love about this machine. There's a couple things I would change, which we'll talk about later. Very minor things, but the overall design and function of this is near as perfect as you can get with a brand new tool launch. A lot of times on a first edition, you'll end up with some kind of oddities that should have been worked out in beta testing or whatever. I think they did that with this. As stated, this is a cordless tool, so it's gonna run off of those batteries. Battery life is not gonna be a problem here. You're gonna be able to drill a lot of pocket holes with a single battery on a single charge. Now, the way this operates is extremely nice. You do not need any clamps at all. All you do is when you set it down on your stock, and we'll talk about the different stocks you can use with this and how to set it up, you literally just put a little bit of pressure down on the front of this machine, and then you're going to drill the pocket hole. It takes 6 pounds of pressure just to maintain the stickiness or the grip on the stock so it doesn't move around. 6 pounds, very minimal pressure. That is not much pressure at all. And why that works is because on the bottom, they have a grippy surface on the bottom that sticks to your material. Kind of like a track saw track. When you lay it on material, it just sticks. It doesn't slip and slide around if it's a good quality track. That's the way this works. It just grips, so you don't need any more clamps. So in other words, the built-in clamps of like the K5 and the 720 Pro and any other pocket jig on the market to date always had to have a clamp. Now that's obsolete. You don't need a clamp for this. Functionally, to set it up is very easy. You can use from 1/2 inch all the way to 1.5 inch stock, and there's some micro adjustments available inside there. But you start out at 1/2 inch on this front fence. This is the thickness of the material that you're going to be drilling into. So if we've got 3/4 inch plywood, we just set this fence to 3/4 inches. If you're using 2x materials like some 2x4s or 2x8s, 2x6s, 2x10s, whatever you're using, then you'll set this out to 1.5 inches because common 2x material is actually 1.5 inches thick. Now, if for some reason your project isn't quite 3/4 or isn't quite 1 inch, let's say you planed your stock down, it started at 3/4 of an inch, but now it's at 11/16 or even 5/8 of an inch. You can use this little micro adjustment dial on the top to dial in that perfect depth of cut for the drill bit. And speaking of the drill bit, you're gonna set the depth of that separately from the fence. So if you set your fence at 3/4 of an inch, this blue piece on top with the little gray push tabs, you're just gonna push those in and move this to 3/4 of an inch. That sets your depth of your bit. Very easy. This also sets from 1/2 to 1.5 inches. And that's it. Once you have those two things set, the fence and the bit, you're ready to drill, and it's pocket hole time. Now, inevitably, if you drill enough holes, that drill bit's gonna get dull. And the way you swap this out is absolutely genius. They thought of everything, I'm telling you. The drill handle on top, you're gonna release that down to storage mode. There's a little black pull tab there. It'll fold straight forward. Once you get that down, there's a gray switch on the very back you're gonna flip to the side, and this whole unit pulls straight out and exposes your drill bit, which Here we go, here's the genius part. It's like a impact setting or an impact driver. Well, all you have to do is pull this collar and the drill bit comes out. It releases it. To put a new bit in, the same thing, pull the collar, drop the bit in, and let go. And then, inserting it, you're just gonna put it right back in place and you're back in business. Probably take you 20 or 30 seconds max to change a bit. One of the coolest features that I think that shows that they thought this through is the leveling feet that's added onto here. So this piece of leopard wood I have here is a little less than 3/4 of an inch, probably closer to 5/8 of an inch. And you notice that if you just set the machine on there, it can fall backwards. But where they thought of everything is these self-leveling feet. You just push these little tabs on the back and they drop down automatically to the actual length that you're going to need, and then it stays in place. So now it's perfectly level, so I'm going to get those accurate pocket holes every single time. Now if we move over to the 2x4, the same thing's going to happen. It's going to fall backwards, but here again, we're leveling feet on the back, drop down to the perfect height, auto set, and now you're ready to drill pocket holes. It's perfect. Like, it's just genius. Now before we put this thing through the paces, let's talk about build quality. Overall, like how long do I think this thing's gonna last in a shop? Getting dropped, beat around, that kind of thing. I think it's well made. This is actually a metal chassis that they built this on. There is some plastic here, like all cordless tools. Almost all cordless tools have plastic on them. Look at your drill and driver, most of it's plastic. But I do like that they made a metal frame on this, and I don't think this is going to damage very easily if you take under normal conditions. Now maybe you bump it over, maybe you set it down a little rough. I think it's gonna be fine for those type things. Now you'll see me using this in a variety of ways here in just a second, but there's a couple of ways that makes it easier to use. Here's a little tip for you. If you have it set where it's facing towards you like it is here, so like this. If you have it set like that and you push backwards or away from you, it actually works better. It's less work. It's very easy to do that way. It's almost natural to do it like that. Now, when you have it facing away from you like this, and you pull this, it's actually a little harder. I feel like I'm almost not straining, but you're putting a little bit more effort into pulling it that way. So it's just easier if you can do it like this. Not all applications will allow that, but most will. Like with any other cutting tool, drill bits, router bits, saw blades, they get dull after you use them for a while. It's just part of it. And when they start getting dull, you're going to start seeing a little bit of fraying, and then you'll start seeing more and more fraying as time goes on. So it's always good to have a few extra bits laying around. So I would recommend actually picking up a bit. And what's great about this is it's using the same Kreg pocket hole bits that they've been using for decades. It's pocket hole time. Let's put this thing to work, see how it's going to perform on various species of wood, hardwoods, softwoods, plywoods, that sort of thing. And I'll give you some tips and tricks that kind of make things a little bit easier, even though it's already easy, but this will even level it up some more. Let's go. First, a piece of maple. We're going to put some pocket holes in this, so if we're making face frames, things like that, out of hardwoods, this might be interesting to you, or just so you'll know how well it does in hardwoods. If you're doing thinner stock, like this 2-inch wide piece of maple, they do provide this thin stock jig. And the way it works, very simple. It's going to hook on the edge of your workbench or piece of plywood or whatever you're working on. It's going to hook on the end of there. You're going to clamp down one side and then adjust to the thickness of the material that you're going to be drilling into, and then clamp the other side. I like to get a little bit tighter. Here's a little trick. Get a little bit tighter so you see these feather boards actually giving as you're pressing into the material. It just makes things kind of stick a little better, and it just holds that in there better. Once that's clamped down, all you do, bring the fence of your machine up to the fence or the edge of your jig here, and then press the board through, and it's going to bump out on the fence of the machine. From there, you're just going to line up your marks and drill your hole. It's very easy. And as you see, it drilled perfectly clean holes on this piece of maple. No burning, no fraying. Like, this looks nice. This looks like a professional machine did it, because it did. Next up, a 2x4. One thing that I found interesting by accident, and I don't know if they did this on purpose or if it was an accident that they did this. When you put the machine on there and you drop the leveling feet down so that it actually matches the thickness of this material, you're going to set your fence, you're going to set your bit to 1.5 inch material. But interestingly, if you bump the fence out and then you move it all the way to the left or all the way to the right with the feet extended, it puts it about 1 inch away from the edge, so your hole is actually going to be about 1 inch away. If you do that on both sides, you'll get 2 uniform holes equally spaced away from the edge, using the back feet as a guide. Kind of interesting. I don't know if they did it on purpose, but I like it. But if you're the type that really want your pocket holes to look exactly the same, even if they're being hidden, some people are like that. I know I like mine to be uniform. I would go ahead and still mark those just in case, but it's a good guide there just to bump out. Now, drilling into this 2x4, this is pine. It did just fine, because pine is fine. Really nice, really clean holes. As you might can see, there is actually a dust collection bin right on top, so you don't actually need a dust hose connected to it, so you can be truly portable with this if you so choose. There is a dust collection adapter if you want to hook a hose up to it to get even better dust collection, but I actually find that I prefer the bin on this. Even though most of my tools I'll use a dust extractor with, this thing does a really good job of dust collection. There's very little dust laying around after I drill the hole. And you can drill multiple holes before you even have to empty that bin. Plywood is probably the most common thing that pocket holes are used on for building cabinets, boxes. I even redid my entire closet makeover with plywood and pocket holes. I built a lot of stuff out of pocket holes before, but this is one of the things people use most. And things like this is exactly what the Kreg Rebel excels at. I want to make this simple cabinet box. So if I was making a wall cabinet or something like that, it would start out as a box, right? So we're going to rip this plywood down using the cordless Kreg track saw, 8 inches wide. One of the things I find most useful, especially if you're trying to get really accurate cuts with track saws, is to use track clamps. And Microjig makes a really good set that just work. They're ratchet style clamps, so they're very fast and they work well. So I ripped 3 pieces 8 inches wide, and these are about 30 inches long, give or take. And then on the third piece, I just cut it in half at about 14 inches or so, just to give me a little depth here. And then you're going to drill 3 pocket holes, equally spaced, one in the middle, one about 1 inch from each side. And you can see that the Kreg Rebel does a very good job drilling pocket holes in plywood. No issues there. Of course, I set everything to 3/4 of an inch because that's the size stock I have. Since we're all in on the Kreg stuff, I'm going to use the Kreg drill. Now, one thing that you can do, especially if you're a beginner and you're not really familiar with pocket holes, is you can overdrive them. In other words, when you start screwing that screw in, if you drill it too far, it will come out the other side. Make a really nasty looking splinter on the outside edge of your board, and you don't want that. One way you can do that is use the torque settings on your drill. For instance, now I have mine set at about a 13 or 14, and what that does is once it gets to a certain tightness, it'll stop. It'll prevent that from overdriving. If it's not driving it all the way in like you want, you can bump that torque setting up a little bit until it gets to where you want. But that's one way to prevent that overdriving. Now, I bought this years ago, and this is a Kreg right angle clamp, I think they call it. Basically, it has a post, a 3/8 inch post that fits right into those pocket holes. If you make any type of cabinets or plywood boxes, things like that, this will save your life. It will literally, well, it'll at least save a lot of time out of your life because it helps keep everything nice and square while you attach the other pocket holes. I've used it for years and absolutely love it. But overall, assembling this very easily. All I gotta do is stick a back and a door on this, and now I have a cabinet, or I can hang this on the wall or whatever I'm gonna do with this. What should I do with this? Then of course, if you're just gonna go ahead and screw this maple together, I like a face clamp when you're putting these together. It helps keeps everything nice and flush, and then you drive those screws in there. Does a really good job. I think this is gonna be absolutely amazing for Kreg and for us woodworkers, because now we have a portable pocket hole machine. Unlike the Kreg Foreman, which was stationary, this will actually move around with you, and it's very easy to use. And it does a really good job at getting really precision results with these pocket holes. I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed with this if you pick it up. Let's talk about the difference between a manual jig like the Kreg K5 or the 720 or the Kreg Rebel. The main difference is speed and efficiency, I think, is going to be the key factor with the Rebel, because you have to clamp this down every time, and then this doesn't need a clamp. You also have 2 tools here with the drill as well as the jig. This is all in one. I think you can do more pocket holes faster with this versus this, just because everything is all included in one, especially if you're doing a lot of flat, like plywood type. Because with plywood, you actually have to move the plywood along. It has to be perfectly balanced, especially longer pieces. Harder to kind of manipulate onto this, especially if you have big panels. Where this, you can just take this to the panel, and that's going to make your life way easier. If you're doing like a 6 foot long piece of plywood that's 18 or 24 inches wide, this is going to be a whole lot easier to work with than this moving the plywood around. And I think that's where this really is going to shine, is being able to take this to the work versus bringing the work to the jig, especially if you're working with heavier stock. As far as battery life, like I've had this in the shop for a few weeks now. I have 0 issues with the battery life on here. I mean, it's basically a drill, right? If you think about it, this is a drill, is what this is. It's just set at a certain angle, at the exact right angle, so that you can drill holes. So I don't think you're gonna have any issues with battery life. I've been using with the 2 amp hour battery, and it's just a drill. So whatever a normal drill has, like normal drills battery life, drilling holes, this is gonna be very similar to that. You're not gonna have any issues with battery life as far as I can tell. But there are a few things I would change if they made a change in the future, which would probably be a long time from now, but this is what I would change. There's only 2 things here that I would tweak a little bit on here. First, the markings on top where you set your bit depth are like a grayish color. I would make those bright white. That would just make things stand out a little better, and I think you'd be able to see it easier, especially for us aging eyes who need spectacles to be able to see up close. These, I just think would be better if they were bright. Another thing is the adjustment on this is a little sticky. I wish it would move just a little bit easier. It's not impossible to move, it's just barely sticky, and I would just like to see that flow a little better. Other than that, I have zero complaints about this thing. I think they did a fantastic job. A prototype. Basically, this is a one-of-a-kind, never made before tool, and now we have it. And on the first edition, I think it's absolutely crazy good. This is one of those tools that I think are going to be sold out for a while. I have no inside information. I don't know for a fact that it will. It may not. But based on what I know about tools and what I know about how people respond to tools, especially new tools like this that do things that no other tool is doing currently on the market, I think this is going to sell out. And typically when tools sell out, it takes them a while, several weeks to get them back in stock. So if you're interested, use the link in the description, the pinned comment, or you can scan the QR code there. Pick one of these up before they're gone. If you're a woodworker who does pocket hole joinery on occasion, say a few times a month, I don't think you'll be disappointed with this if you picked it up. I know it's a different battery platform and a lot of people have pushback on that, and I did too at one time. But now that I have multiple different battery platforms like Milwaukee, DeWalt, Rigid, Ryobi, Kreg now, I actually like having the option of having tools other people don't have. Nobody else on the market has this and probably won't have this for decades. This is going to be a Kreg exclusive, so if you want something like this, you really don't have a choice other than jumping into the battery platform. A lot of people speculate, is there going to be an adapter, like a corded adapter so you can plug it into the wall? I don't think so. Not in the near future, not in the next several years at least. So I think we're going to have to jump in on the Kreg platform if you want to get in on this Kreg Rebel, as well as the new Kreg track saw and the other cool tools that I featured right there in that video. So if you want to check out all the tools they have currently out, click that box, get to the big old virtual fist bump. Seriously, this just changed joinery forever. Awesome.